the water should be free. They don't just think that water in the stream should be free. The water that's piped into your home should be free. And very few politicians dare to tell the people that, hey, water is not free. There's a cost to bringing the water from the stream to your home. Somebody's got to pay the cost. You've got to pay the cost. And that's a very difficult political message. So that's one example of a bad policy, free water, that obviously is a problem. But if you think of Gipao or Cecilia or Bindu, of other examples of bad policies that can be reversed and then hopefully help to make the more soluble the water problem.
Yes, let me begin with just this. I won't repeat about pricing. It's about planning. We need to make sure that even though we may not have the funds to implement today, but the planning process must be rigorous. That stretch of land or that area that is to be reserved for a sewage pipe, a drain, or a floodplain or a reservoir, it must be reserved. And all you need is 2 lines to draw on the plan and then force it. The minute you backtrack on this, you're creating future problems which is sometimes simply intractable, because buildings have been built on what was supposed to be a floodplain, or they're built too close and you cannot lay sewers in between them, and therefore you have a water pollution problem that you cannot resolve or too expensive to resolve. So from the planning point of view, just draw the 2 lines and safeguard that area for future water resources management issues. In that way, you will really lay the groundwork for the future. I'll give you a good example. The Bukit Timah Flood Elevation Scheme Phase 2, that huge canal that cuts from Swiss Cottage all the way to Sungai Kalang, that land was reserved in the 1940s.
1940s?
1940s. 2 lines were drawn.
This is even before Singapore became independent?
Before Singapore, yeah, by the British. Yeah. Because they knew that Rochor Canal will be too small, the city has grown too close to it, and will be growing too close to it, and therefore they need to reserve the part of land. And it's been reserved all the way to today until about 10, 15 years ago, we built the Phase 2 diversion canal. So we need to just do that for the future. It doesn't cost us anything. When the time comes and we can implement it, we have the funds, it is available.
Thank you. Cyril?
Thank you.
Bad policies.
Bad policies, the ones we have in terms of laws and regulations. Our countries tend to develop laws and regulations which are never implemented. They are not implementable. We have one example in China where the water quality we know is a main issue in the world. Water quality parameters have been increased from 15 to 106. So you increase the number of parameters, you list them by name, you have to establish your laboratories, your human resources, how you are going to keep the data collected, from collecting of the water to reliable means to analyzing it, and then finally what did you do with the data? So it's not a matter of saying, it's not a matter of saying I'm going to establish this regulation, and if you don't comply with it, then there will be fines. No. It's a matter, as Mr. Kandika was saying, of planning, even in terms of laws and regulations. You have to plan for what is feasible. You have to plan together with your industries and with your domestic sectors, with your agricultural sector, to see what you will be capable to do and within what timeline. And that's the main problem all over the world, I'm sure most of you know, that we tend to have the wrong policies, the wrong laws, and the wrong regulations. And then we wonder why we are so bad. That's a good example.
Thank you, Kishore. When the Development Bank does a project, we have a matrix of the policies, which we say, this is not good, you should implement by such period. We are champions of providing all kinds of policy that we consider bad. And there are many of these in the water area. First, agreeing with Mr. Tan, which is a simple one. Let's take the urban area first. In the urban area, one of the minimum thing you would like to see is the urban plan. That everyone is respect. And that urban plan would include, among others, the water supply, the drainage, the sewerage, in some bigger cities, a drainage area for flooding area. Because time, it's also a good strategy to create some land for flood when it happens. Therefore, you don't have to worry about your flash floods and so on. And what we have problem in looking at this is these plants change that often. As the mayors come, they change. And the area we sometimes is kept for flood zone becomes a real estate property. So no wonder these people are now going to be flooded. Or because if it's a nice real estate, they don't get flooded. They put an embankment around them, they raise the level high, and the neighbors get flooded. I think this is really one of the biggest problems we find is the mayors after mayors, the plan keeps on changing. So you need a longer term person. This should be anchored at the level it should be changed. And the second thing, as again Mr. Tan said, is if you're going to be building, you build this much, 10 kilometers, 10 meters of water supply, you better build it to say that it will only have 5% losses. Why try to cover hundreds of meters and then you have 30%, 40% losses? So whatever you do at AAA. And I think this is something really need to be implemented. Third, most of the water supply systems today don't care a damn about the quality. The public health. So what good is water when you can't drink? Is a point you were making. And I have research when I was in the academics once, she might recall, I did a study when we provided rural water supply in one village. The water actually came to the house, but it got more contaminated. The treated water got more contaminated because there was no good sanitation. And the handling of the water wasn't good. You just still had the bacteria. So when the children actually drank, they got more sick with the water than before. So I think there's not trying to put the public health dimension to this. I'm glad you have the Ministry of Bank and the water resources together. Not many countries have that kind of arrangement. Looking at the public health dimension and the water quality is very, very important. And if you elevate the kind of discussions a little bit upstream, if you start looking at the whole river basin issue, then the whole water resources allocation, river basin management comes in. She tell me, you and I wrote many things about the river basin management before. We can't think of many, we can't even think one good river basin authority that has done both river basin resource allocation the way it should be done. So I don't know how many bad policies I can keep on giving you, but just to tell you that there are many.
Okay. So we may invite you back, Bindu.